welcome to another episode of Curiosity Highway. In today's video, we're doing one on Huell Howser's Cameraman, Louie. He was in Riverside, California recently doing a book signing and answering questions. This is his book right here. Louie, take a look at this. My Time with Huell Howser. And I got his signature right here. He talked about his life working with Huell Howser over the years on California's Gold. So hope you enjoy the video. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.
Just look at this design here, Louie. This is absolutely beautiful.
Yep. Well, good early afternoon, everyone. Thanks for making it early, and here you are. Thank you so much, and thank you, Louie, for being here. My name is Christina Guillen. I'm the programs coordinator for Inlandia Institute, which is a nonprofit organization that serves the Inland Empire with wonderful free events like this one. Let's see, let's just go ahead and make it short and sweet and welcome Louie. Thank you so much, Louie.
Thank you so much for having me. This is an adventure I never thought I'd ever experience. I was quiet, shy, behind the scenes type person, and I think Huell's paying me back for not taking his car in to have it serviced. That story's in the book. It's been an adventure for me, and whoever thought it'd come to this. I'm from San Bernardino. I was born in San Bernardino. My dad was from Mexico, and my mom was born here in Riverside. And my dad was a pretty ambitious guy. He worked for the railroad. And at age 11, when I was 11 years old, he decided to lease a store from my aunt and uncle in South Colton, which was pretty much a segregated community. And at age 11, my biggest dream was to be a Boy Scout. And moved to South Colton, and lo and behold, found the rowdiest Boy Scout troop you could ever find. If they would have given us merit badges for fighting, we would have all had merit badges. I graduated from Colton High School in 1960, and so instead of going in the Marine Corps, I decided to go in the Navy. And I was assigned as a radarman to a destroyer, and my home port was Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Well, someone had to protect the hula girls, right? It was quite an adventure, and after active duty, I realized I had to go to college, so I went into engineering. And one day on the campus, I run into a friend of mine from high school, and she happened to work at the TV station there at KBCR. She offered to give me a tour of the station, and since I'd never been in a TV station, I said that would be awesome. So she gave me the tour, and I saw the equipment, the mixers, the tape machines, and all that, and I went and stood behind the camera, and I don't know what hit me. I fell in love with that camera, and I said, this is what I want to do. So I changed my major to telecommunications engineering. And back then, you needed a first-class license to work in television in Los Angeles. So I got my first-class license, and one day I get a call from KCOP Channel 13, and they need a cameraman right away. So I go in, and I took the job, and before long, I'm working with Dick Lane, wrestling, boxing at the Olympic, roller derby, and all these things. And the way it worked there at the station, I knew I was only going to be there about 3 years because of the system that they had. So after 3 years, I started looking for a job. ABC offered me a job, and KCET called me, and they said, "We want you to come and work for us, but we want you to work in all aspects of engineering." I said, "This is great, because that's what I love. I love moving around, learning different things about engineering." And so I took the job, and they were quite busy back in those days. They were doing big dramas, concerts, a lot of local programming at KCET. And the station was a big film lot, and they had pretty big stages. So they would have a lot of film companies come and shoot films there and stuff like that pertained to television. And it was quite an adventure. And of course, I started at the bottom, and I think those were some of my great years as a utility for other cameramen, working in lighting, working with great lighting designers, lighting directors. And it was pretty neat for me because I learned so much. And I went on, and as I moved up the ladder, I became a cameraman in big shows, concerts, dramas, and things like that. And it was such an adventure working there at KCT back in the 70s and 80s. Well, one day I'm in the commissary, and I'm sitting down having lunch, and lo and behold, I hear this real southern voice that I hadn't heard before. And I look up, and sure enough, it's Huell Howser. I had seen him on Channel 2 doing some little tiblets there on Channel 2. So after he finished talking to people, I went and introduced myself, and we talked for a little bit and asked him what he was going to be doing. And he told me he was going to come over and do those little interstitials that KCT did called video logs. They were little 3-4 minute pieces, basically fillers for the station. And so we talked for a little bit, and I wished him luck, and I said, I hope someday I'll get a chance to work with you. So we said our goodbye, and about 2 weeks later, I looked at my schedule, and lo and behold, I'm assigned to shoot with Huell. So he comes in, and he says, "Louie, I understand you're going to be the cameraman on the shoot tomorrow," and I said, "Yes, I am." So he says, "Well, we're shooting a story on an elephant man." And I said, "My God, how big is this guy?" And he says, "No, it's about a guy that trained elephants for the circus. And he retired and donated his elephant to the San Diego Zoo. And he hasn't seen the elephant in about 16 years. So we're going to go down there and see what happens." So he said, "Okay." So we meet Huell down in San Diego we take Charlie Franks, who was the trainer. And Huell comes up to me and says, "Now, Louie, the way we're going to shoot this is we're not doing brain surgery here." So I kind of understood the style of shooting that he wanted, and says, "Okay, keep it simple." And so Huell starts the interview and talks to Charlie and stuff like that. And so Charlie calls the elephant, and Huell says, "Now, do you think this elephant's going to remember you after all these years?" So Charlie says, "Well, let's find out." So he goes up to the fence and calls the elephant, and the elephant in the background lifts his trunk and starts walking over to the fence and puts his trunk around Charlie, like saying, "Where the hell have you been?" It was really emotional thing to see. And Charlie, you could see the tears in his eye, and Huell got teary-eyed. And of course, you can't see me because I'm behind the camera. But it was such a touching story. Everyone loved it. And the way we shot it, it was done very efficiently and simple. And he went back and put the story together in about a couple hours with the editor. And the station liked that. They liked the way he worked, cost effective he was to the station. So they started bringing him in for more events and stuff like that. Then they started that series called Visiting with Huell Howser, which was a lot of LA, Southern California type shoots. And he would work with different cameramen. And one day I happened to be shooting with him, and we're coming back, and he says, "Louie, I have this idea for a show called California's Gold." And he tells me what it's all about, and it says, we'll be traveling through California, checking about the history, interesting things that are here in California. And he says, I've talked to another cameraman, but I like the way you shoot, and I would like to have you as the cameraman. And I said, that's great. I'd love to do that. I love history, and I'd love to learn more about California. So he says, okay. So I'm working on the funding, and I have to talk to all the PBS stations in California to see if they'll air the show. Well, about 2 months later, he walks into my office and he says, Louie, are you ready to go? And I said, I'm ready to go. And so we said, okay, we're going to start shooting stories pretty soon. And I get a call from Huell's office, and his secretary says, Louie, I don't know how to tell you this, but Huell wants you to take the car in to have it serviced. And I said, give me Huell's phone number. So I called Huell, and I said, Huell, what's this? You want me to take your car to have it serviced? I'm the camera guy, the lighting guy, the sound guy, and that's all I do. And he's very quiet, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm dead. And so he says, okay, I'll take it in. Never heard another thing about having to take his car to have it serviced. So in a way that was good, because it set our boundaries. I never wanted to be in front of the camera. This celebrity thing was not my thing. And I didn't want Huell behind the camera telling me what to do. So in a way it was very good, because it's in our boundaries. And as we got to shoot more things together, we built this respect for each other. And my job was just to make him look good, to tell the story, and make it easy for the editor to put the show together. And so as we started working together, we would shoot a story in San Francisco, a story in San Diego, and then he'd put them together. And one day, I think after about the fourth show, he comes to me and says, Louie, what do you think? I said, we're still shooting video logs. And he says, right. So not until we shot our story in Sacramento on the train museum there, we were there for 3 days. So that's really when the first true California Gold came out, and we started getting our act together and putting the show together. That's the show you see today. So we started shooting place all over the place. And as you know, he'll like to repeat himself a lot in a lot of the shows. And we happened to be shooting a story down at the Mexican border, and we're interviewing this agent, and we come up to this line, and Huell says, so this side is the United States and that side is Mexico. And agent says, yes, it is. Okay, so I'm standing in the United States. Yes, you're standing in the United States. Louie is standing in the United States. Yes, Louie is standing in the United States. So now he crosses the line, and the agent says, you just crossed the border illegally. And says, so I'm in Mexico. Yes, you're in Mexico. You're in Mexico illegally. And Louie's in the United States. Yeah, he's okay. He's fine. He says, but you're across the border illegally. So he starts to come back, and the agent says, I want to see your passport. And Huell says, that's okay, Louie will vouch for me. So then agent turns to me and says, Louie, will you vouch for Huell? I said, I don't know. How much money does he have? That's my Boy Scout skills kicking in. And there's other adventures where we did a show on cavalry units here in Southern California. And we finished shooting the show, and he turns to me and says, Louie, what do you think for a final shot, for the credits and all that? I said, well, you have this beautiful valley, you have a beautiful sunset, you have the horses. Why don't I get a shot of you guys riding off into the sunset? He says, perfect. So they mount the horses, I give action, halfway into the shot, Huell falls off the horse. I said, phew, you just ruined my shot. And so we said, okay, let's do a take two. And he says, no, my leg hurts and all this. And there's two things Huell would love to brag about, and that was that he was from Tennessee, and he was in the Marine Corps. And so I said, well, I thought you were in the Marine Corps. And he says, no, I can't do it. So that shot never got on the air. And of course, we did all the missions in California and some in Baja California. And I think we were on the 17th mission. And Huell turns to me and says, Louie, by the time we get done with all these missions, I just might become a Catholic. I said, you better give that some serious thought. And he says, why? He says, because you're going to have to go to confession and confess all your sins. He said, oh my God, I haven't done anything. He says, right, some of the stories I couldn't put in the book. So a lot of great adventures like that we had, and there's more stories in the book regarding that. After about 12 years, I was getting up in age. I was already in my 60s, and I was thinking of retiring. And we're coming back one day, and I said, Huell, I think you better start looking for another cameraman because I'm thinking of retiring. And he's very quiet, and he says, well, how much time will you give me? I said, how about 6 months? He says, okay. Well, 4 months go by, 5 months go by, and I see no new cameraman, and finally I said, Huell, where's your new cameraman? And he says, well, I haven't had time. He's making all these excuses, and so he says, can you give me another 6 months? And he gives me a pay raise, so the money does talk. And so I gave him 6 more months. Well, after about the 4th month, 5th month, no new cameraman. So he comes to me and says, can you give me 6 more months? And he gives me another pay raise. Well, I said, this is it. And so I did take the pay raise. And so finally he brought in someone else, and in 2004, I decided to retire from KCET, and I still had the hankering for the camera and shooting and stuff like that, so I kind of started my own freelance production, and I was working for a lot of companies in Palm Springs and all over. And finally, 2012, that's when it hit me, and I said, it's time to hang it up. And we used to go to the engineers parties there at KCT for the holidays, and we went 1 year, and we decided to go visit Huell's office because his office was there at the station. And we went up to the office, and I noticed they were taking everything out and kind of closing the place up. And I said, what's going on? And he says, we're closing up. Huell's sick, and we're going to stop shooting the show. So I said, well, can I set up an appointment to visit with Huell and see how he's doing? Well, the next call I get is I find out that he had passed away, and which was really, really sad because, he was a very strong, big guy, and he worked out all the time, and so it was really a shock to me. And then Chapman came to me because he donated all his houses, everything to Chapman University for scholarships. And they called me and asked me if I would receive the honorary doctorate for him. And I did, and went to the event, and there was probably about 2,000 people there. And they were shocked. In fact, I was shocked how many people wanted to know who this Louie guy was. And stories that when he started talking to Louie on the show, he would come when we'd be getting ready to go on a shoot, and he says, where every place I go, somebody's asking for Louie. And people come up to him, and he's on his day off, and they say, where's Louie? And they say, you know what, we're not attached at the hip. And, or he would say, well, he's over there on the other side, so people will walk off and leave him alone. So it did create a little monster for him. And like I said, I never wanted to be in front of the camera. It's really scary for me. In public speaking, whoever thought that was the scariest thing in my life? And so that's why I say I think he's getting back to me for not taking his car into heaven service. It was quite an adventure. There will never be another Huell Howser. A lot of people have tried to duplicate the show and stuff like that, but there'll never be another Huell Howser. And with that, I'll open it up to questions, and I'll repeat the question.
You're an extremely modest man. You didn't mention your primetime and daytime Emmys that you've been awarded. I want to thank you also for your work on the John Glenn movie. My Huell story is seeing him at Felipe's at his favorite table right by the candy cashier. And I just wanted to get up and I just want to shake his hand and say, just thank you for what you've done for us. So he put his sandwich down. Well, how long y'all been coming here, Clint? I said about 50 years. You've been coming here for about 50 years? And I said, Huell, no. Enjoy your sandwich, please.
But and where's are you Louie?
Yeah,
we have to go with him.
When you mentioned Dick Lane, you remember the phone number emblazoned on the side of the auditorium? RI9
Right.
5171. RI9 5171. But anyway, thank you so much for you felt your creativity was stifled a little bit, that this isn't brain surgery comment.
Right.
But the word got across, and we are more informed and better people for your efforts.
Well, I thank you. It's very appreciated.
Any other questions?
I have a comment. My name is Ana Maria Calderon. I was born in Mexico City, but I came to this country when I was in my 20s. I'm married 61 years with my husband here. And this program is one of our favorites because most of the programs on TV now, there's a lot of violence. And this program allow us, even though in our older age are not able to travel. When our kids were little, my husband is from El Paso. We traveled to El Paso, Texas. We went to Mexico. We used to take our children all over. We can no longer go on vacation. This program allows us, even though the reruns allow us to stay home and enjoy the program. But from the very beginning, we noticed at the end, Luis Fuerte. And for us, that was very important. Being Latinos, I felt very strong and happy to have somebody in there, even though we didn't see your face. I I knew that you were one of us. And I was very proud. So by accident, our daughter and I were coming today to see what's going on in Riverside, Cinco de Mayo, and said, Luis Fuerte is going to be here. I want to go over there. This is where we are right now.
Thank you. Feliz Cinco de Mayo. And to me, it's about giving back to our community. It was very challenging for me, especially starting out in TV. And it was a lot of hard work. And but I loved it. I just love what I did. And to speaking with young people today at universities or wherever colleges, I try to motivate them and tell them to work hard in what you love. And it's going to be challenging, but to me it's about giving back to our community and making it a better place to live and helping our kids. So, we're all the same. We all need to eat. We all need to work. And we all strive for the same thing. So, to me, it's about giving back. And this has been a challenge for me. Public speaking, like I mentioned, was my biggest fear in life. And it's a challenge, and I'm up to being challenged. And so I have 5 Emmys, I have International Monitor Awards, I have Golden Mike Awards, I have awards from the state of California. I've worked with presidents, I've worked with kings, I've worked with everybody. I've traveled all over the world, and I've seen and getting to know other people has really enriched me as a person to enrich others and help others. And that to me is what it's about.
What year did California Gold originate?
California Gold originated in, we started shooting in 2000, I think it was 89 or 2000. Or 2000, I think, no, I take it back. It's 2001, so we started.
And you were with them until 2000?
2001.
In 2001. Also, the fact that you traveled all over.
No, I'm sorry. It was 90 when we started to show. And then 2001 is when I retired.
The fact that you traveled, so this is going to your personal life. How did you maneuver that? Because you were on the go all the time, or did you do a series one week and then X number of weeks later you did the other one? Well, how did that work out?
Well, how did it work out in my personal life as far as traveling? Once I got established and people saw my work, producers would call me, and because I was what they call a one-man band, I could do lighting, I could do shoot, I could do sound and do everything, and it was just myself. We didn't have a crew, we didn't have anybody to assist me or anything like that. Once in a while somebody would go to take pictures or photos, but it was just I. And I knew how to handle it, going through airports, doing all that kind of stuff. And so it was, a lot of producers would call me and hire me, and then pretty soon the LA Philharmonic, they wanted me to shoot stuff for them, so I was traveling with them. So I was never home. In and out of airports. I hate airports. I don't want to see another airport ever again, or an airplane. Yes, ma'am.
I bet you have no idea of how you've enriched the lives of other people. When I go to Stater Brothers and I see the milk in the glass container, Bouchers, I think of your story about interviewing them, and the store that has all the different kinds of soda pop. And I think about, you interviewed some friends of ours, Larry and Donna Sharpeed, with their jojoba farm, and they still use that clip on their website. And also, just as an aside, we went to a party at Huell's house in Desert Hot Springs, and he was just as nice in person as he appears on TV. Y'all walk through the house, and we saw the unique sink in his bathroom and things that he had collected from the travels, and he was just as open as he had been my favorite uncle from childhood. Thank you.
You're welcome. He was very open, very friendly, just like he was on camera. He was off camera. I mean, he did have his little dark side. We all do. And his producers would say, "Louie, you haven't seen his dark side." And I said, "I already took care of that." So, yeah, but overall, he was just a very genuine, easygoing guy, and he was off camera the way he was on camera.
That's okay. In so many of your episodes, you could see you as a cameraman carrying the equipment that was, bulky and heavy. And there's one episode in particular where you, top of the Golden Gate Bridge, we had to climb these steps.
Right.
How did you get the camera up there? Did somebody help you, or did they pull it up, or did you carry it all the way up that ladder?
I carried it up very carefully. Very carefully. We got into situations where it was very, like we did Beaumont. We did that tunnel that has water going to Riverside, and it's about, I think, 10, 13 miles long. And we're underneath, and water's coming through the caves. I mean, they drained the cave just to inspect it, and then they filled it up with water again. So we went through there, and the water coming down, and Huell dropped his microphone in that. Fortunately, I always carry a spare, and but I took care of that camera like it was a baby. It was the only thing I did do was sleep with it. Yes, ma'am.
I told you at the table I was a teacher. I really when I went into the classroom and I could see those folks, because that man was
Well, I'm not perfect, but I have spoken at high schools and some elementary schools just to motivate kids and just help out, giving back. Yes, sir.
Like many people, my wife and I went to some of the places we actually saw on TV because of the show. A couple episodes come to mind. There's one episode with Phil Kennedy as you enter into on the Empress 1670 that they had the Iron Door Saloon. We talked about the famous hotel there.
All right. Yes.
And then the other one was we were down in the Salton Sea, and we were doing something about the Salton Sea, and we went out further in Coachella Valley where this individual had cleaned all these rocks and all that as all like Jesus.
Right. Yeah. That was awesome. I mean, it's yeah, it was very interesting. Yeah, we got to see a lot of interesting places that and learning about these places in California. California is such a diverse state in its terrain, everything. We have the highest, the lowest, sometimes the driest and the wettest. And the same with its people. It's such a multicultural state that, and we learn from each other. I mean, I have friends that are Japanese, friends that are Arab, friends that are, from all over each other, and we share. And that's what I loved about traveling through California. Yes, ma'am.
Did Huell select all the spots you went to, or?
Did Huell select all the spots we went to? After the show started airing all over California, people started writing into the producers and saying, look, this is happening here, or, this happened here, or this is here, and stuff like that. So then Huell would sit down with his producers and decide what shows we were going to shoot the following year. and then something would come up, and maybe we just go out. And normally, productions will shoot 13 shows a year, but we would shoot anything from 13 to 20 shows a year, and that's just the California Gold. The visiting series, we would shoot as many as 30 a year, and of course we got to do things like the tallest building west of the Mississippi with window washers. And I'm scared for heights, but you can see Huell is really, you can see he's on camera, and you can see he's really scared. And we did the blimp hangers in El Toro down there. We were up there way at the top, and I mean, they asked me, weren't you scared? I said, well, I'm too busy thinking of trying to get the shot. I'm thinking of lighting. I'm thinking of, okay, what's going to cut for the editor and stuff like that. Now that I'm retired, I get flashbacks. Where I'll wake up in the middle of the night. I said, oh my God, was I there? Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mom. Hi,
Did,
that's my mom.
did you ever find true love?
Did I ever find true love?
Did you?
Oh, Huell. Did you ever find true love? Yeah, he loved California Gold. That was his love. That's what he loved doing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that certain people in the entertainment industry, their on-camera personality is very different than their off-camera personality. You mentioned that Huell was very private, almost similar to some other people. And so my question is, reference Huell's purchase of that flying saucer house out there in the desert near Newberry. Did he purchase that just for his downtime to just thoroughly unwind, bring the steam pressure down in himself and stuff, or was there something else going on with that house as far as its uniqueness and he just wanted it or something?
The house out there was called, what's the name of it? It'll come to me. Anyway, yeah, I had left the show already, and I knew I did visit the house that he had in 29 Palms, and he would collect all kinds of rusty things. That was his art. And when we drove into the house, I saw it, and I said, Huell, what are you doing with all this junk? And but he had his private moments, and he did like to socialize and be out town and do all that kind of stuff. But he did have his private moments, and he just went off by himself and did his thing.
What do you have a favorite episode?
Do I have a favorite episode? I tend to look at the shows a little differently as to, okay, how artistic was I with the shoot? Because we had this relationship with Huell for, if I saw something wasn't working right, I could stop him, and he'd listen to what he's saying, and he says, okay, I know where to pick it up. So then I would reposition myself from a different angle and make it look like a 2-camera shoot or a 3-camera shoot. And so I tend to look at it in that direction as to how artistic I was with the show, how the lighting was, because to me, lighting is very important and critical. So, I mean, there's a lot of shows that I think one of the popular ones is the Golden Gate Bridge, because that was a challenging show. Just getting up to the top was.
Anyone else? Would anyone else like to ask a question? Yeah.
I have a
film at Cal State Fullerton. He was at Cypress and then now at Cal State Fullerton. And you were mentioning to do something that he loves, and I know he really loves filming and music and is learning all aspects of it. And you had that opportunity through a friend to get a tour, and that's where you made that connection. And I know what you just said about how you see things differently. I know my son, when he goes to see a film, he now looks at it through a different lens than just as an audience, going to enjoy a movie. He's looking at, oh, this shot, or, more technical. And so what are your recommendations for someone who's looking into going into the type of profession that you did for a young person to get their foot in the door, to get an internship, or, like you kind of had an opportunity there come up about? Was it more being at the right place at the right time, or how does one get the experience to do that?
When I was getting into television, well, it took me a while after I got my license, and I was constantly making trips to Los Angeles because I knew that's where I wanted to work, knocking on doors, meeting people, doing everything I can to make a contact. And now, today, with all the medias that exist out there, it's just more opportunities. But I think making the contacts, going out, meeting people, and talking to people in the business and stuff like that, and they can maybe lead you to a certain direction, stuff like that. It's a lot harder today than it was when I was starting.
What do you think of, like, those that are on YouTube, now with social media, posting films, a lot of them post their own films on social media, such as YouTube and things like that.
Yeah, the problem with that is, how do you make money with it? That's a problem, and you need to have sponsors. You need to get in Huell's case, the station didn't sponsor him. He would go out and get a sponsor to fund the show, and then from there he would go out and distribute the show to all the PBS stations and stuff like that. So that's one avenue to take, is getting your own funding and getting somebody interested in it.
Did you own your own, like your camera, everything that you had was yours, or did like KCUT provide the equipment for you when you do California School to shoot the video logs, or you had to have your own equipment?
Well, KCT had their own equipment, and Huell had his camera, which I would use his gear, and I would take care of it, and all that stuff. And then I had my own personal gear that I would use when I freelance for somebody else or something like that. And of course, gear is not cheap. It's not cheap. But I wish I would have had some of the toys they have today. Oh, I could have done so much more. And in fact, I get a lot of comments from cameramen like NBC, ABC, and stuff like that I've run into, and they said, we study your tapes to see how you did these things and stuff like that. And to me, that's a big compliment. But
I know you said you go to the universities to give talks. Have you thought of giving classes at the community colleges or the universities?
I will lecture, go once and lecture in lighting or lecture in shooting or stuff like that, and but to actually teach classes, I don't want to work anymore. I'm done. I don't want to carry another camera again. I want to see another airport.
Anyone else? Can I?
Growing up in California and having the opportunity to travel all through, one of my favorite places is the little town Harmony, that you guys did an episode, and till this day, it's such a small town, but it's just, it's a nice place to visit.
well, California has so many great places. It's just unbelievable. My wife and I, we like going up to the Eastern Sierras and go up there and hit all the lakes and just, it's so peaceful.
Okay, I have a question for you. You talk about controlling your lighting and your equipment. And what did you do up there on that wind turbine? How did you control that?
Not very well. Yeah, there's certain things that are out of your control, but it's like you have to, because it was never scripted. We never surveyed the location. We'd get there and okay, I have to this, the light's coming this way, I have this obstacle here, I have this, so I may have to make quick decisions and tell Huell, okay, why don't you start from here and do this? And so there's a lot of things that are out of your control.
And just what was the feeling for both you and Huell while you were up there?
Well, like I mentioned, you can see it in Huell that he's scared. I mean, I'm too busy trying to make things work, trying to get the shot and trying to see, okay, then afterwards it's like, what was I doing there? Yeah, so we got into some real crazy places.
Anyone else?
Yes, ma'am.
As a mother of 8 kids, your mother saw genius in you when you were younger, or did you just decide on photography when you got older?
Well, I didn't get into videography. I mean, I was always into music. I always loved music. So I got into, as a young kid, I love classical music. Of course, I love mariachi music, Mexican music, stuff like that. But I got into classical music and I studied the trumpet, and then I switched to the French horn. And I thought I was going to be a musician, but it didn't work out. My parents, my grandmother, who I call my tita, she's kind of the one that raised me, because as a little kid, she would have me do chores and stuff like that, and wash dishes, clean the table, and she would always make me wear an apron. I always have to wear an apron. So then when we finished, we'd go sit out in the porch, and she slipped me a taco, and that was my reward. But today, as soon as I walk in the house, walk into the kitchen, I put on my apron. I was trained properly. I have more aprons than most ladies have.
Any other questions?
If that's it, then I thank you very much, and I really appreciate
Thank you so much, Louie. Thank you. And following this, if you'd like an autograph, if you haven't already,